What's up, everybody? Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz. On top of it today, I got my link tweeted out before I even hopped on here. We are ready to go. Okay. Now, hopefully, that's not me jinxing anything here, but I'm ready to roll today because not only do we have the national championship game to talk about coming up on Monday. Why do you think I'm wearing this purple? No, it is not for K-State, though I love the Cats, and they've been doing a hell of a job on the basketball court with three straight top 25 wins. No, this purple is for TCU. All right. Supporting the Frogs. How do you, is it just like this, right? That's what I do. TCU, baby. That's why I'm rocking the purple. We will talk some national championship game. We will talk about whether or not TCU is going to have Kendre Miller, which I think could definitely have an impact on the game. And it's Sonny Dykes with another quote that I really, really loved. The more that I hear from him, I tell you what, the more that I like that guy, gaining a lot of respect for Sonny Dykes. Okay. We're also going to talk plenty of realignment related issues here, okay? Because I've seen a story come out about Brett Yormark, some comments that he made, of course, around the college football playoff. We had the commissioner speaking, so both he and Sankey had something to say. And to me, it kind of poured cold water on the Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 a year early talks, which it seemed like last updates that we were getting from The Athletic, CBS Sports, basically everybody involved here was that we were really headed toward them leaving in 2024 as opposed to 2025. Now it seems like maybe some of that is backed off, although I do think we need to examine whether or not that's just a calculated move by Brett Yormark, the way that he is putting it out in public. So we'll get into that. Man, the John Wilner mailbag this week, and I enjoy the John Wilner mailbag. I think he does a really good job, but man, the questions coming in this week were wild, okay? For all the crap that Big 12 Twitter gets sometimes for perhaps not knowing its place or perhaps being too big for its britches. My goodness, you guys need to see the questions that were coming in on the John Wilner mailbag this week. And what he had to say about Fresno State really did kind of stun me as it relates to Fresno State and the Big 12. So, yeah, I'm already seeing that in the comments there from somebody reading what's coming up here on the show. But man, question got asked about Fresno State and like, is Fresno State an option for the Big 12 or Pac-12? And I was pretty surprised by the answer from old Wilner. So we'll talk about that for sure. Bob Thompson weighed in on some more Pac-12 TV contract action. What else am I missing? Hey, how about the Michigan Wolverines? Congrats to the Michigan Wolverines. They couldn't even handle Big 12 football while cheating. Jim Harbaugh couldn't even handle Big 12 football while cheating, and now he is going to run off to the NFL. Yes, it was TCU and Big 12 football forcing Harbaugh to tuck his tail and go running back to the NFL, because that is an easier proposition than dealing with the physicality of the Big 12. That's the narrative, everybody. All right, if Harbaugh takes the Broncos job or whatever, why? But if he takes the Broncos job, we all know why. Okay, that's the narrative that we're running with. That's what I've got lined up for the show here today. We're going to have some fun with it tonight. Very much looking forward to that. Should be lively. Should be a lot of fun. Now, if you guys are in here and you've been here before, you know the drill. You know how this works. If you want to weigh in tonight, you want to make sure that your voice gets heard. Over 100 people already in the chat tonight. I will not be able to keep up with everything that's going on there. So if you want to make sure that your question or comment makes it on the chat tonight, you need to click the $sign below the chat box where it says say something. That will pin your chat up at the top for me. Supersedes everything else. I will read it. It will get on the show. That is how you do that. Plus, at the same time, you are supporting the work that I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. I could not do it without your guys' support. So I really, really appreciate everybody who does chip in. It helps a lot, and I really, truly do appreciate it. And hey, one thing you can do for free is just simply like the video. That's all it takes is one like, and you're doing your part. Totally free, just one click of the mouse, and that will help me with the YouTube algorithm. Plus, if you're watching this after the fact, give me a like, comment, leave a comment below the video. Also, that definitely really helps too. Any kind of interaction there is great. Tell me I suck. Tell me I'm awesome. I don't truly care. Either one helps, and I really do appreciate it. So please do that as well. All right, guys, I'm looking forward to this. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo, by the way, if you want to contribute and you're catching this after the fact. But for those of us that are here live, let's roll. Michael, what's up, Michael? I see you in here. Michael, thank you very much for your donation. Michael says, Can't wait to listen to this later, dropping in for a minute, then off to a family event. Totally understand that. And look at Michael's dedication, everybody. I appreciate the hell out of that. Just popping in to say, hey, pop it in to drop in a little donation and then coming back to watch it later. You're a real one, Michael. You are a real one. And I sincerely do appreciate you being here every single week. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? All right. Daniel is hitting on a couple of things that have really brought some joy to my life here in the last 24 hours. Daniel, thank you for the donation. First of all, I really sincerely appreciate your support. Daniel says, so where will the Wildcats be ranked this week after beating 2 ranked teams on the road? Also, how about the Chiefs snow globe play? Yeah, okay. Let me start with the snow globe play. All right, like everybody, I assume, has seen that now for the Chiefs, right? Spinning around in the huddle, coming out. I mean, getting a holding call on that play. What are we doing? What are we doing with that? Just let the play roll. I mean, good Lord. And Kadarius Toney is my new favorite Kansas City Chief with the explosiveness that he brings to the table. Yes, that was amazing. Such a show of hilarious disrespect for the Las Vegas Raiders, which I love. I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes is 16-0 in AFC West road games. Why would you not just fart around a little bit? I'm totally here for it. I loved it. I'm embracing. I mean, if you guys aren't Chiefs fans, you're gonna hate that aspect of me. I definitely have embraced being the heel of the NFL these days with the Chiefs. So I'm fully bought in on anything like that they want to do, especially in that situation where it's like, you're controlling the game. I get upset sometimes with the cutesiness of Andy Reid, especially if it's a playoff game or something like that. But yeah, loved it. Love the snow globe play. And K-State, don't look now, tied atop the Big 12 standings. Iowa State, Kansas, K-State, 3-0 in the league. You got Baylor, the preseason favorite to win the league, 0-3. You got Texas Tech, 0-3. West Virginia, 0-3. It's been a pretty wild start, but K-State's playing as well as anybody in the country right now. I mean, to be honest, they were a 4 seed, according to Lenardi, before the win at Baylor on Saturday. So, I mean, I imagine they're probably going to be like a 3 seed when the next bracketology comes out. I bet that they'll be ranked like 15th. Their resume might suggest even closer to the top 10, but I think there will be some lag time on that. I would anticipate that K-State comes in at around 15 when the rankings drop. So, yes, thank you for asking, Daniel. I am as fired up about K-State basketball as I've been in a long time. And it is so fun to watch this team, not just the fact that they're winning, but they are playing like an NBA kind of style. I mean, you look at, they scored 98 against Baylor and 116 against Texas last week in those wins. It has been fun as hell. And Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel are both playing at an all-American level right now. Marquise Noel, he's playing like the last week, he played like the best guard in the country. He was putting up numbers that have only been matched by Steph Curry, Trae Young, and who was the other one? John Morant. He was in that kind of statistical company this past week with a couple of 30-point games and 130 and 10 assist games. So it's been great. It's been great, man. And K-State fans, if you're within earshot of this, if you have any opportunity to make it to the game on Tuesday, please, please, please do. Get to the game at Bramlage on Tuesday against Oklahoma State. Get there, please. Jerome Tang, the staff, has made it a huge point to really ask for that. So please, please, please get there and make your voice heard. Michael, I see Michael says, forgot to say go Cougs. I almost said it for you, Michael, but I appreciate the fact that you came back around to say it as well. I was about to be like, Michael, I know is a great BYU fan. So yes, go Cougs. Go Cougs indeed. Okay. Let's start with the Oklahoma-Texas discussion here, shall we? It was not that long ago, only a couple of weeks ago, that I came on here and did a show about the fact that Brett Yormark's Big 12 looked like it might actually let Oklahoma and Texas go a year early. And it makes sense that those talks would have accelerated because the Big 12 got a new TV deal ironed out. It was just further traveling down the road of kind of a sensible conclusion for everybody, some closure for everybody. The Big 12 now had a secure future with what had been reported as the TV deal with Fox and ESPN. Slightly more money than they're making right now, not this giant 50% cut or anything like that. So it felt like, okay, you've got this plan. These new teams are coming into the league next year. Clearly, Texas and Oklahoma do not want to be around for any of this, if at all possible. Now the Big 12 has its stability and financial future supposedly set up. All right, we can all just go our separate ways, figure something out, and make it happen. With the caveat being that making the TV networks whole was going to be a difficult part of it. And I think we all understood that. And that was my one hang up with it, is I just thought, I mean, okay, we're talking about having to make ESPN and Fox happy here with the inventory that they're getting. And that probably would take some creativity, where they were even discussing Big 12 teams being added to future non-conference schedules for Texas and Oklahoma, which gets messy and gets complicated. So I guess, on the surface, that part wouldn't have really surprised me if that was going to throw a wrench into things and slow it down. But I don't know. After all the momentum and all that we read, I mean, multiple outlets reporting that within the last couple of weeks, I was surprised then to see at least the way the Athletic framed some of Brett Yormark's comments coming before the national championship game with some of the commissioners speaking here. And just to be fair, to be frank, like I haven't heard the audio. This was, I would assume, I don't know if it was like a press conference or just a breakout session, but I have not seen the actual just physical audio available. So I'm just reading how it was framed in this article. Sometimes that can change some of the context here in the way that you might actually interpret it. But I'm just going to read you the article. It says, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark said nothing has changed in regard to Texas and Oklahoma's departure timeline to the SEC. In October, Yormark said the teams would remain in the Big 12 through 25, but as previously reported by The Athletic, there have been discussions for the Red River rivals to leave in time for the 2024 football season. Now, here's a quote from Yormark. Quote, if there's an opportunity for us to come together as a collective to figure something out where there's an early exit, we'd be open to that discussion, Yormark said at Saturday's College Football Media Day in Los Angeles. That just seems like a curious quote, right? I mean, if there's an opportunity for us to come together as a collective to figure something out where there's an early exit, we'd be open to that discussion. I mean, the way he is framing that is saying it hasn't happened yet. If there is an opportunity. The reporting was all that the talks had accelerated in Vegas. There was a meeting in Vegas right after the Big 12 had the TV deal supposedly locked up, which still, to be fair, has not been like officially announced by the Big 12. And we have not seen an official announcement about the grant of rights or any of that. It's just been reported. But this is a surprising way to have that framed. I mean, Yormark's that's in essence the same sort of response that Yormark had before we saw all the reports of things accelerating because of the TV deal being locked up, where he was kind of like, yeah, I mean, sure. His whole line has been open for business, right? We're open for business in basically any aspect. So if we're going to talk about this, if it's something that is going to be talked about, we'd be open to it. That kind of felt like a step backwards to me. I guess that's really the way I would phrase it. That felt like a step backwards from where the reporting had been pushing with some of this. I mean, the other part that's interesting to me about all this is like, we still don't have the schedule. And Brett Yormark did say, you have to scroll down to get that one. He said, quote, real soon. He was asked about when the Big 12 2023 schedule would come out, and he said, real soon. So, I mean, I guess you could look at that and say, all right, nothing's coming together for the 2024 early exit for Oklahoma and Texas. They will just dump out the 2023 schedule real soon and kind of move forward. But man, it sure felt like the fact that the date had got pushed back. We were supposed to by the end of the year originally get the 2023 schedule. Then that got pushed back into like January, February sort of range. And so I thought, everybody really thought the logical explanation there is that they had a schedule ironed out for both of these years with the 14-team league. And then discussions heated up for Texas and Oklahoma to be leaving a year early. So they had to redo all of that. It's going to change the way that you schedule if you don't know what's going to happen with Texas and Oklahoma. Or if they are going to leave early, that's going to change the way that schedule would work there, quite obviously. So you'd have to retool everything and buy yourself some time to iron out all the details here, which again, would not be a quick process. That would not be a quick process. That's going to be something that's going to take some time. So, man, like having seen that and knowing that we still don't have it, just felt like that was the logical thing. And I'm a little surprised to see Yormark with a quote like that dumps a little bit of cold water on this. Now, things to consider here. That's me taking it at face value, right? That's me taking the quote at face value. Like that's the legitimate reality that there have not been discussions, even though reporting would suggest otherwise. And not only that those discussions had heated up here recently. We'd be open to that discussion. If there's an opportunity for us to come together as a collective, we'd be open to that discussion. We have to consider here, what would the motives potentially be for Brett Yormark to be perhaps a little bit deceptive for this, right? And I think it's fair, very fair, to open up that discussion because Yormark has been a master of utilizing the media so far. I point back to a couple of things here that I do pretty regularly here on this channel. One is the Gonzaga talks, right? I mean, John Wilner will tell you on the Pac-12 side that the Pac-12 has talked with Gonzaga, and they have been certainly involved there and thinking about whether or not the Zags belong in a Power 5 conference in basketball. But the one that was widely reported because ESPN's Pete Thamel got on top of it, and then therefore it hits everybody's news feeds and gets into everybody's minds and gets everybody talking. That was Brett Yormark. That was the Big 12 when the Big 12 talked to Gonzaga. Yormark kind of played the Pac-12 on that. He was able to dominate the news cycle and win, quote unquote, the news cycle by getting that one out there. There was the big one, which made the Pac-12 very mad. I mean, big mad. And now, because of Freedom of Information Request Acts or emails, basically, that have been uncovered, we know that George Kliavkov was kind of lying about all this, but he was furious when the Big 12 got the story out there, again, through ESPN's Pete Thamel, that they shut down any talks of a merger between the two leagues. Kliavkov was furious. He got played on that news cycle and said that is not how it went down at all. Well, now we've seen his emails, and his emails indicate that, yeah, actually, it does not look like it was the Pac-12 that shut those down, as he indicated, and indicated very loudly, and indicated through all of his propaganda pieces very loudly that was the case. So Yormark has been able to do this very well. I think it's one of the best things he's done so far with the league, is knowing how to push and pull different levers to dominate the news cycle, to generate good publicity for the league. He's been very adept at doing that. So what would the motivation be here? And maybe some of it is simply just the same reason that Oklahoma and Texas have been so tight-lipped about this every single time they get asked about it. And their line is just, look, we're in it until 2025. That's what the contract says. And that would be legal reasons. For legal reasons, you don't want to step on any of that. You don't want to mess with any of that. It could be as simple as that this isn't, I'm thinking, too far down the road. If there's some tactic at play here from Yormark, and really it's just the legalities of the situation, you can't let on that anything really is happening there. That may very, very well be true. But I also do have to wonder, I mean, is it a tactic to put pressure on Oklahoma and Texas to get this figured out? If the issue here, the hang up here, is them getting together their finances for the exit fee, if it's figuring out if they're going to put teams on the schedule in the future, if that is really legitimate, and it's just trying to put some public pressure on them to make it happen by revealing, like, hey, well, we're not really that close to anything here. It's going to take you guys figuring your you-know-what out. Could it be like a tactic to get the SEC more involved? I don't think you're going to make the SEC really do anything, because they can just sit back and be like, look, if we wait until 2025, we're fine. We're the SEC, will be okay. You guys do you figure out your whole little deal over there. We're going to be fine because we're the SEC. I mean, it's kind of like with all the playoff talks and playoff expansion and all that. It just bounces around all over the place, with its 4, 8, 12, 16, whatever. And the SEC is just like, look, whatever, just we'll be fine no matter what. If it doesn't work out and it stays at 4, we're clearly killing it right now. We have no issues. So I don't know that you're really going to bully the SEC into anything. So those will be my working theories here, I suppose, on what that Yormark quote actually means. And we did get some Greg Sankey quotes to go along with this as well. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said he has watched the ball bounce on the Big 12 side over the last 6 months. He said, quote, there was an openness, and then there was a statement that, oh, no, there wasn't openness. So I just look at the reality that there's a relationship, a grant of rights between Oklahoma, Texas, and the Big 12. And we've told our folks, could the date change? Sure, but that's not in my control. And if it does, we'll be prepared to adjust. Okay, I mean, that's a quote that's, again, kind of seemingly flying in the face of what it is that we had seen reported. Sankey says he's watched the ball bounce on the Big 12 side over the last 6 months. So I take that to mean watch people go back and forth, watch the discussion go back and forth for the last 6 months. And he says there was an openness, and then there was a statement that, oh, no, there wasn't openness. So I just look at the reality that there's a relationship and blah, blah, blah. There was an openness, and then there was a statement that, oh, no, there wasn't openness. It felt like it was flipped, right? It felt like it was more like there was not an openness, and then there was. Once the Big 12 got the TV contract figured out, that was sort of the reporting there. Now, a lot of semantics that we're getting into potentially here, and maybe it is, once again, Greg Sankey just kind of covering his tracks and not trying to let on that there are actual discussions being had and happening here right now. But both of those quotes, I took them together to be kind of like, oh, okay, well, if we're taking that at any kind of reasonable face value, that would seem to me to deem it much less likely that we're going to see Texas and Oklahoma leave a year early. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. The rest of the article says When the schools announced their intent to leave the Big 12 in July 2021, they remained bound by the conference's grant of rights for another 4 years. Violating that commitment could result in a hefty payout, as the Big 12's bylaws stated a departing member would forfeit its final 2 years of conference revenue. Quote, here's another Sankey quote. He says, quote, "We don't have a scheduling format in football, so that accelerates things. From November of 2011 to August of 2012, we expanded from 12 to 14. So relatively speaking, we have a lot of time still." On his optimism, this is a great quote to finish it by Sankey. On his optimism of a deal being made, Sankey said, quote, "I'm neutral. They're contractual relationships." That is a fantastic non-answer. Greg, what do you think? Nah, I'm neutral. Okay. Thanks, Greg. No predictions being made there by Sankey at all, which again, I think that part is very smart business by him. I mean, you're not going to gain anything by trying to lead on one way or the other what is actually going to happen there. But the other interesting part with this is people have pointed out, I mean, December 31st, technically, if we're going by the amount of lead time that you would need to give to depart the Big 12 early, December 31st would have been the deadline to do that. So if everything were going by the book and being utilized appropriately by Texas and Oklahoma to leave a year early, December 31st was that deadline. That has come and gone. Now, I am of the mind that especially with a guy like Yormark there, who is going to be willing to wheel and deal for the best of the conference, if they can make it happen, they will. And I would not anticipate that is going to be some massive hang up that it's totally done. But it is another landmark that we passed without real progress seemingly being made here on the Texas and Oklahoma departure front. So I would just say overall, it feels like this, the phrase I keep using has had some cold water splashed on it. At least from what we know publicly, it feels like some cold water has been splashed on the early departure for Texas and Oklahoma from the league. And I mean, frankly, how do I feel about it? I'm kind of just in a mode. I guess I'm like Sankey. I'm a little bit neutral on it. If they leave early, great. It does feel like that would be good, maybe for some closure for everybody. The Big 12 is in a perfectly fine place. Again, look who's playing in the national championship game tomorrow. It ain't Texas or Oklahoma. It's TCU. And it's been well detailed here on this channel how wildly successful the Big 12 has been the last couple of years since Texas and Oklahoma decided to leave. So, yeah, great. If they stick around and the newbies get a chance to go fire off their shots at Texas and Oklahoma, and Texas and OU have to deal with awkward moments in meetings where they have to leave the rooms and they have to whine and cry about conspiracy theories about the officiating being out to get them in both football and now basketball, by the way. Go check out Message Board Geniuses on Twitter this week. Oklahoma fans now think there's a basketball conspiracy out to get them in a game that they won, by the way, against Texas Tech. So, look, I don't know. But it feels like the momentum is not moving in that direction right now. So I felt like that was a pretty important update, seeing some public quotes from Greg Sankey and Brett Yormark on that front. We shall see. I'll keep you updated every step of the way, of course, here on this channel if we get anything else new. But I was mildly surprised to read all that. Okay. I guess I didn't really finish my statement. The other part of that, if they do decide to leave early and they're going to pay up and pony up and whatever it takes, getting teams on non-con schedules, look, if financially it's going to help out the Big 12 and you just get them out a year early and it makes sense, totally fine. I'm fine either way. This does not bother me a ton. I would think this is really mainly of interest to two different parties. Texas and Oklahoma fans, quite obviously, they want out. I mean, we understand. We get it, guys. You want out. You want to go get your butt kicked in the SEC faster, sooner rather than later. Go do it. That's fine. And then the four incoming schools to the Big 12, the newcomers, I think they would be the most excited about getting extra shots in here at Texas or Oklahoma, getting their only shots in at Texas or Oklahoma before they leave the league. For a Hateful Eight fan like myself, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. Stay, go. I don't care. Okay, Andre, I appreciate the support, my friend. I do not see a question or comment there from you, Andre. So if I missed anything, my apologies, but I'm not seeing anything attached there. But I do very much appreciate your support of the channel. As always, thank you for being here. Let's see, Jim. I missed Jim. Okay, Jim, what's up, Jim? Jim says, John, metrics show Fresno State not ranked academically as high as San Diego State, but both its football and basketball records are better, plus its TV numbers are higher. And if its DMA joins Sacramento's, it's also better than San Diego State's. So Sacramento would be 20. San Diego State listed there as 27. Okay, interesting. Bringing that to the table, Jim, and let me go pull up the piece from John Wilner's mailbag where Fresno State was discussed. So, Jim, if I didn't say, I appreciate the support. Thank you for the donation, my friend. Really, really do appreciate that. I will admit I probably could use a little bit of pushback, like you're giving me on Fresno State here, because my initial reaction to Fresno State is kind of like, no thanks. That's really how I feel about Fresno State. And no offense at all to Fresno State. I'm not saying, look, K State got their rear ends kicked by Pat Hill back in 2004. And then Ron Prince took his show on the road to Fresno in what? I think that was '07. That was the return trip. That also did not go well. So I am by no means trying to look down upon Fresno like that, but I don't see nearly as much to gain from there. I mean, if you get the Sacramento market, okay, I guess cool. And if you're getting it, one thing it would do is give you the potential for more inventory in that time zone, right? Getting out to the Pacific time zone, which Brett Yormark has made clear he wants to do. So, I mean, I think that would be probably the biggest advantage to Fresno that they could plant their flag on right there is be like, all right, you want more games in this time zone? You want more inventory there? Add Fresno State. Like, okay, I get it. But yeah, I don't know. The football and men's basketball, it's fine. It's okay. But I don't know. I'd rather be in SoCal, even if it's San Diego, not LA. I'd rather be in SoCal, regardless of what the demographics actually say there. Me personally, I also am a bigger fan of what San Diego State is doing on the football field and basketball court right now. I know you're mentioning that football and basketball records are better. I don't know if that means just this year or if we're talking like the last 5 to 10 years. But I mean, San Diego State basketball has been very relevant. San Diego State football has had some pretty nice seasons here lately. I know Fresno State football has as well. And without looking at it right now, I mean, just off the top of my head, like I'd have to go actually explore that with a bit more of a deep dive to get a real fair representation of both schools here. But this is what was said by John Wilner. He got a question in his mailbag this week that said, do you think Fresno State to the Big 12 is more likely than Fresno State to the Pac-12? And Wilner said, I do indeed. Says the Bulldogs are a better fit in the Big 12 institutionally and would help the conference gain a footprint in the Pacific time zone. They bring access to a talent-rich region and a top 25 media market if Sacramento is included in Fresno's DMA, and they would create more Big 12 kickoff opportunities in the 7:30 p.m. Pacific window. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has made no secret of his desire for a West Coast campus. Says at the same time, the hotline hasn't sensed much momentum inside the Pac-12 for adding the Bulldogs. We see San Diego State as the priority among California schools. Again, yeah, to me, San Diego State should be the priority for both. I just think they're a little bit more ready. I still like the attractiveness of that market better than even if Sacramento's a bigger size. What are you gaining by getting in there? I'd rather get into Southern California for recruiting purposes than the Sacramento area for recruiting purposes. And even then, I feel like the recruiting impact is probably minimal either way. And we're going to talk about that some more with SMU in the Pac-12 because that was another thing that was addressed by Wilner. But I don't know, man. It's just not doing a lot for me. And I was surprised that Wilner seemed to give it as much credence as he did here in his mailbag, Fresno to the Big 12. But I can get why you would do that. I mean, Yormark has been out here being very brash about the fact that they want to get into the Pacific time zone. And yes, on one hand, you can view it as a warning shot that, look, we're eyeing the four corner schools. We're definitely after them. Or we're eyeing Gonzaga and hoops. We're definitely after them. Or we're eyeing San Diego State. That's something we would certainly consider. Maybe it does get to the point where he just wants it that badly that he would go grab like a Fresno. But they seem, to me, I still view them as a tier below San Diego State. And it's the least exciting out of like Gonzaga basketball, San Diego State, the four corner schools, clearly a tier below to me in terms of like what I would get fired up about for the Big 12. Again, nothing personal to Fresno. It truly is not. Nothing personal at all. But I don't get really fired up about that. I would also agree with Wilner there, though, that like I don't think Fresno makes a whole lot of sense for the Pac-12. I think they'd have to be getting pretty bottom of the barrel is perhaps a bit harsh, but they would be moving down from tier A2 if they're deciding to go after Fresno there. San Diego State makes the most sense. SMU by far to me makes the second most sense. for the Pac-12, I get those as expansion options. So that I think is where all of that would be headed, because the Pac-12 doesn't really need like a foothold in the Sacramento market. I mean, the Pac-12 is going to have some presence in that market already just by virtue of where even the remaining schools are right now. So a little bit less to gain there. Again, inventory might be the biggest advantage that Fresno has there in that scenario too. Not specific inventory in a time zone, because the Pac-12 is already in the Pacific time zone, quite obviously, but just more inventory. They just want more teams for more inventory, period, for their TV contract, and they would have to get to that point. Maybe then that becomes more of a factor and makes sense. All Blue 12. What's up, All Blue 12? All Blue 12, thank you for the support. Thank you for the donation. All Blue 12 says, congrats to Pac-12 chumps in their performance against the third best Big Ten team in the least watched Rose Bowl ever. Go TCU. Make the new Big 12 proud. That's some good marketing right there, All Blue 12. The Pac-12, well, the chumps, I mean, that's maybe a bit of a low blow instead of champs, but hey, I can dig it. The Pac-12 chumps in their performance against the third best Big Ten team in the least watched Rose Bowl ever. I'll admit, look, I hate on the Rose Bowl because it just to me represents all the stuffiness and all of the brand superiority stuff that we deal with far too often in college football. To me, it is very emblematic of that. You know, we want this Big Ten school, this Pac-12 school. We're too good to move our kick time at all. It's got to be the perfect time in this valley and whatever. We've been doing this since 1910, and these brands were great. And I'm sure it was even before, whatever. Since the 1700s, we've been doing this with these huge football brands, and I don't like it. But it is typically a very interesting game, and it is typically something that I will tune into and watch most of. I did not watch very much of Penn State, Utah. That matchup did not do much for me. Neutral observer, casual fan, it didn't do a lot for me. It was not moving the needle to have me watch. So I don't even really have a great idea as to how Penn State did that to Utah. You guys know how I feel about Penn State as well. I feel like Penn State is always feasting on the bottom tier of the Big Ten, and then they lose the games to the big brands of the Big Ten, and then they wind up going to some New Year's Six bowl because, hey, it's the Big Ten and it's a brand, and they went 10-2. Never mind that they beat Northwestern and Indiana and Iowa, etc. Maybe Penn State is a little better than I'm giving them credit for, because I do have a healthy amount of respect for Utah's football team. You know, the fan base and their thoughts on where they're actually at in the college football world, that's much more up for debate. But I do have a healthy respect for Utah's football team. But yeah, not exactly a great showing there for the Pac-12, least watched Rose Bowl ever, which I hadn't seen. I don't All Blue. I'm just going to take your word for it there right now. I had not seen that if it was the least watched Rose Bowl ever, but at least from my personal experience, I would understand why, because it did not move the needle very much for me at all. I certainly echo your sentiments about TCU and making the Big 12 proud. Again, got my TCU purple on right now, right? TCU purple. Go Frogs. Do we have another one here? We've got Fred. What's up, Fred? Fred, will Colorado move over to the Big 12? I still think Colorado is number 2, most likely, behind Arizona. And then you'd have Arizona State and Utah out of the 4 corner schools. But I don't think it's coming anytime soon. I think Arizona would have to be the one to kind of lead the charge on that too. I've said it for a long time. I think if any of the 4 corner schools are coming, you're going to pry Arizona loose first, and they would kind of be the ringleader there. They are by far the most seemingly on board with that sort of a move. But thank you for the support, Fred. Appreciate you. If you guys want to join the show, if you want to be on, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you make your voice heard. Get your question or comment on the show. It will pin it up at the top of the chat for me. I'm not going to have a chance to read everything else with over 300 people in here right now. So that is how you can get on, control the content, make your voice heard, and support the work that I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis here on the channel. All right. Which route do I want to go here? Man, we got to get to TCU in the national championship game. I know that we really do, but since we've already been touching on here all the Pac-12 stuff, let me just hop in here and finish off the Wilner mailbag because it was a doozy. First of all, this was actually a fairly legitimate discussion that came in, but it was about SMU. Says it's long been held that the biggest impediment to Pac-12 success in the college football playoff is defensive line play. This is the question being asked. What options are out there for recruiting top talent at that position? Is opening new recruiting areas a consideration for Pac-12 expansion? So John Wilner says it is, and we can answer that question with 3 letters, SMU. The conference is seriously considering adding the Mustangs for a variety of reasons that include access to the Dallas market for media dollars and recruiting. With regard to defensive linemen in particular, the Pac-12 needs help. It's an essential position, but in limited supply within the conference footprint. That's not the case in Texas. Now, he does some research here on the number of blue chip defensive line prospects in the past 3 recruiting cycles in Texas versus California. Texas had 33, California just 12. And the number is going down, apparently, in the Pac-12. So tougher to recruit on the lines out in Cali. And look, if you're just playing by the stereotypes of the Pac-12, that makes sense. You think of them as being more finesse, a little softer. It's like USC not playing any defense and that being their downfall for making the playoff. And I think like Oregon, you always think of Oregon, great skill talent, not as great in the trenches. So it makes sense that the Pac-12 would be seeking some of that out. And I'm not going to totally crap on all this. I mean, Texas clearly would be a better place to go recruit. And having a presence in there, if it's SMU, is certainly better than nothing. I don't know that that's going to move the needle a ton. I think it'd be a slow burn. It would take a while to really put a dent in Pac-12 lacking defensive line talent over time, because like you're going to have to build SMU up. Even then, how often are these teams actually playing a game in Texas? So it helps a little bit to have a presence there and say, we do have a school from your state in this league. You'll get a chance to play at home maybe once or twice in your career while you're here. But I don't, how much is that really doing it for guys? To me, that's not going to make a huge difference. But that's an interesting angle on it. And if I'm going to give the Big 12 credit and say that one thing I like about Yormark in the Big 12 has been to get creative, try to find different ways to maximize value, I'm going to have to, in the same breath, give the Pac-12 credit for the same sort of thing, which I feel like is kind of what they're doing right there. Like, how can we get creative about some of the issues that we have? We're going to have to get better in the trenches. We need to do something. We can't just continue to only be secluded out here. If we can expand a little bit, that may be a way to help us. So I can at least respect that thinking. I can respect that thinking from Wilner and apparently the Pac-12. He did add at the very end of that, at least some university presidents are aware of the need to improve recruiting, and for that and other reasons have become intrigued by the prospect of adding SMU. I would think just a lot of the reason for doing that too would just to be get some people in that state, however small that poll may be for SMU, but get some people in that state paying more attention to your product. If you're going to be on Amazon Prime, maybe sell a few more subscriptions in the state of Texas if people are going to really be wanting to watch SMU, and that's the way that they're going to do it. Maybe that helps you out a little bit with your viewing numbers and some eyeballs there by just getting into that state. And again, you hope that that's a gradual thing over time. Like look at TCU and how their profile has expanded since they joined the Big 12. You would hope that kind of happens for SMU over the long haul. Now, the last point that I want to make here about this mailbag is that Wilner and, Wilner has been somebody, and I get it. He gets a lot of Big 12 folks in his mentions, and there are plenty of people. Look, I love you guys. I love Big 12 Twitter. Love the feistiness. Love the fight in support of our league. Love the passion. But there are sometimes some ridiculous takes that come from people. That's just going to be the case with any fan base, and certainly anywhere on the internet like Twitter. So Wilner sometimes will take the opportunity to dunk on some particularly bad take that comes out of Big 12 country, and I think is kind of tried to brand or fairly or unfairly, the Big 12 is like incredibly passionate people that go way out of their way to make arguments that aren't true or think too highly of themselves and what their conference actually is. I just want to point out, not a Big 12 specific thing. The problem with the Pac-12 is I just don't know that there are as many fans that are passionate enough to care to go fire off takes and have as many bad takes out there, because there just aren't as many of them. They're off, surfing or whatever out on the West Coast. There's not as many of them to do that. But when they do get through, and these are not only people that just ask these questions, they ask these questions and Wilner dignified them with responses in the mailbag. But let me just read you what these questions are. And can we talk about some ridiculous takes and ridiculous ideas and ridiculous questions here? How about this one? If one or a collection of digital media companies like Amazon, Apple, or Google make a significant media offer that includes the LA schools, can they stay in the Pac 12 or are they legally committed to the Big Ten? So we're pitching a hypothetical here where Amazon comes in and says, look, USC, UCLA, I know that you're going to a league that by the end of its next TV contract, you could be making $100 million per year. And right now you're making in the 30s. But wait until you see the offer that we have for you to come play behind a paywall. All right. Behind a paywall, we're going to make you this offer that you can't refuse. $120 million per year. I don't know what it would be here. Whatever you think it's going to take to get them to stay and play behind a paywall on Amazon Prime Sports Video, whatever it's going to be called. We're pitching that as a question worth actually answering here. Now, I guess, especially with all the UCLA talk and the stuff with the regents there, I can get like, are they legally committed to the Big Ten being a question there to answer? But like, come on, man, that is a hell of a take to have that even as a question that you feel is legitimate and worthy of asking. There's this one too. If the conference, being the Pac-12, if the conference arrives at expansion, do you think Commissioner George Kliavkoff at least makes a phone call to Notre Dame? If the conference arrives at expansion, do you think Commissioner George Kliavkoff at least makes a phone call to Notre Dame? Now, look, the first line from Wilner here is it would be a waste of time, which is absolutely 100% correct. But, look, everybody has been making passes at Notre Dame for a very long time, and it just has not happened. And we know, like, the Big Ten obviously is the most sensical. They already have a relationship with the ACC. The SEC is another one of the top dogs. Like, it would just be like, get in line, buddy. That ain't going to happen. That is, to me, another ridiculous idea to even have that question be asked. Then we have this one, which was the first one I saw where I was just like rolling my eyes. Like, come on, why are we dignifying this with a response? But it says, have any Big 12 teams delayed signing their grant of rights agreements, wondering if there is any chance that some could still flip to the Pac-12? Buddy, come on. Justin, who asked this. Justin, come on, man. No, that is not happening. Now, if you want to say, have any Big 12 teams delayed signing the grant of rights agreements because perhaps they're waiting on an offer from another conference, I would still say that I very much doubt that would legitimately be the case. But I could at least understand if, based on what we know about like Kansas, okay, and how their fans have felt about the Big Ten, if they're going to feel like, all right, well, we got to wait around and see, maybe another natty in basketball this year, and we're going to get that Big Ten invite. Maybe we finally get some indoor plumbing in our football stadium. We're going to get that Big Ten invite. That at least is a little bit more legitimate than like, hey, maybe these guys haven't actually signed that deal because they're waiting on an invite from the Pac-12. You think George Kliavkoff, with how pissed he's been at Brett Yormark publicly and behind closed doors, all the complaining he's done about that and the grenades and every comment he's had, you think if there were Big 12 schools like actually legitimately interested in the Pac-12 that something wouldn't have happened by now? I mean, Kliavkoff would kill to have something like that to get over Yormark's head at this point. He would kill for it because he's just been clowned at every step of the way by Yormark so far. So like, no, that is not happening. Wilner's response, he said, well, that seems highly unlikely. Nothing would surprise us. And fair enough response. Like, realignment's wild. You got to kind of cover your bases there with that. But like, dude, asking that question, come on, buddy. Come on. So, folks, if anybody ever tells you as a Big 12 fan that you're being ridiculous, that you're too passionate, you're too wild with your takes here, you hold your conference in too high a regard, just know that it's the same thing everywhere. It's the same thing everywhere. And honestly, in fairness, it is, I pick on some different fan bases, but in general, you're going to have some of that with each and every fan base across the country. That's just being a human. But the Pac-12 definitely has some wacko questions and wacko takes coming out there as well. Just thought I'd throw that out there for all of you guys. Remember that the next time somebody really comes after you. Okay. Oh man, we've got a handful here that I got to get to. Appreciate all you guys who have donated. If you want to hop in, you got about 15 to 20 minutes. Click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you get in and make your voice heard tonight. It will pin your question or comment up at the top of the chat for me and ensure that it makes it on. Plus, supports the work I'm doing, bringing you content here. Provo Cougar fan. What's up, Provo Cougar fan? Appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the donation. Says expansion might not occur until after the Pac-10 TV deal is announced. Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. I do not anticipate any expansion coming before the TV deal. That has just been pretty widely reported by the Wilners of the world that would not happen. Kliavkoff wants to make it happen in the order of get the TV deal signed, get it figured out, then go expand and move forward from there. So yes, you are absolutely correct about that. We are not going to see, I don't think, anything until that TV deal is signed. Cameron, what's up, Cameron? Thank you for the support, Cameron. Appreciate you. And obviously, I appreciate what you have to say here. Cameron says, your cats are looking good. Looking forward to the Sunflower Showdown, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Hey, Cameron, I appreciate that. K-State is playing some excellent basketball right now. 14-1, 3-0 in the Big 12. 3 straight wins over ranked opponents, 2 of them on the road, 2 of them in overtime. It's been thrilling. Marquise Noel playing like the best player in the country. Keontae Johnson also playing like an All-American. And I will be there, Cameron. I got my ticket. I was early adopter on Jerome Tang. I bought mini pack of season tickets. So I've got a KU ticket. It's at 6 o'clock on a freaking Tuesday, which that's also when K-State plays this week. And don't get me started about how annoyed I am by these early midweek tip-offs, because living in Kansas City 2 hours away, I can't make. I would love to go to the Oklahoma State game this Tuesday. I can't make it. I'm already having to use a little bit of PTO just to make it to the KU game next week. So, but I will be there. I will be there, my friend. And it should be incredible. I think that's going to be the best K-State home atmosphere that we've had in years. So it should be great. It should be absolutely great. What's up, Rob? Rob chiming in here on the Fresno State conversation. Appreciate you, Rob. Thank you for being here and for the support. Rob says Fresno is 170 miles from Sacramento. There is zero connection between the two markets, and Wilner knows that. Total shade he is tossing. Pac-12 people look down their noses at Fresno and the Sacramento market. Yeah, I'm sure they do, because to be honest, like I try to say, like I'm trying to be as respectful as I can to Fresno, and it's not that I like look down on the Sacramento market. I really, frankly, I don't know really anything about Sacramento at all, but my perception is that it is like the redhead stepchild of the West Coast to people out there. So I know that it's just not bringing a lot of juice for everybody out there. That's how I look at it. Without knowing any of the details, I know that that's how everybody out there feels about it. And I guess, like, I've had a friend, one of my really good friends lived in Fresno for a little while pretty recently here, and kind of said the same thing. Like, yeah, everybody out here, they're not real big fans of what happens in Fresno and just the whole city at large. So yeah, I mean, Fresno, and then that's not even addressing Sacramento, which, yeah, apparently being 170 miles away, that's pretty far, and that's definitely a stretch if we're going to talk about including that as a media market. And then what is Fresno really driving anyway? I mean, they're just not that big of a draw for anybody out there. So yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I'm with you. To me, that's one of those that, like, addressing that with any tone of sincerity right now seems a little far-fetched to me, that the Big 12 would ever actually consider that. I mean, Yormark is, I didn't expect the Gonzaga thing, and not everybody loves that or is on board with that. So it's not like it could be. It's not like it couldn't be something like this that comes a little bit more out of left field, but I'd be very, very surprised if there was anything legit to Fresno talk. Where are we at? We got Alpha Cat. There's Alpha Cat. All right, Alpha Cat. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the donation, my friend. Alpha Cat says, wouldn't the Ducks and Huskies, Oregon and Washington, wouldn't they be better off as independents than on Amazon? All right, interesting question there. I mean, you're going to have to get your games need to be televised by somebody, so you're going to have to work out a TV deal by somebody with somebody. And the question you'd have to ask is, like, are you going to get, say we'll throw out $35 million a year, if that's what the Pac-12 is going to pull per school. Are you going to find somebody independently to give you $35 million per year to put your games on TV? I mean, that I doubt it. I doubt it. Like, those are medium big brands in college football, but they're not big brands. And you're certainly not going to be pulling in like Notre Dame TV contracts. So you're going to have to find somebody with inventory, and you're going to have to find somebody that would like pony up and pay the money. But I'm sure that they have big concerns about exposure if that were going to happen. And I continue to say, I mean, that's a big part of like the question for me about what the Pac-12 does moving forward is like, how do you make Oregon and Washington happy? So I think you're on the right track there with like that they might want to explore something else that's going to give them more exposure, but I'm not sure that going independent is really a feasible route for them. They're going to have to find some sort of stopgap Band-Aid from now until whatever the time is that the Big Ten or SEC or ACC or whoever it is that might eventually expand and try to grab them, that they're going to have to find some sort of stopgap. Like I would think that even as much as I think this is very, very, very unlikely, really would never happen, I would think even the Big 12 would be a more palatable option for them than that, because at least you have there the infrastructure of the exposure of ESPN and Fox. So I think that to me is where that gets tricky, but I don't think that you're off base and kind of the reason for suggesting that, because there would be a huge exposure issue for them if they're going to have to be behind a paywall on Amazon. Alan, what's up, Alan? Thank you for being here, Alan. I always appreciate your support. Alan says, John, thanks for being the voice of the Big 12. KU likely number 2 and KSU number 15. Noel looked great against Baylor. Grady Dick and Jalen Wilson can take the Jayhawks to the Final Four if we can survive the Big 12 schedule. Go TCU. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Alan. Hey, thank you, Alan. I can't really argue with much of anything that you said there. Obviously, I'm pulling for TCU once again. TCU purple here. I mean, Kansas looks great. Like, I'm no argument for me. They're absolutely national championship contenders once again this year. Boy, yeah. I mean, Bill Self's he's the best going. You're not going to get any argument from me that Kansas is the best college basketball program in America right now, and they have the best coach in America. And Grady Dick, especially. Grady Dick is like, I watch him, and that's the guy that I really salivate over. Not that Jalen Wilson isn't great too, but Grady Dick he's pretty elite. And yeah, K-State at 15. That is my prediction. If you pin me down for an official prediction of what K-State's going to check in at in the rankings this week, I would say number 15. So yeah, I'm Alan, pretty agreeable there. Pretty agreeable. Look at that. Cats and Jayhawks just agreeing across the board on this thing. We can come together and kumbaya here on the YouTube channel. So thank you, Alan. Thank you for your support. Very much looking forward to the game on the 17th. As I mentioned earlier, I will be there in Bramlage and Manhattan. It is going to be awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Much like really the entire Big 12 basketball schedule. I have found myself, and it helps to have a team in K-State that's playing as well as they are, and just it gets you more interested in the sport in general. But I have really faded. You know, it was tough to watch a lot of Big 12 basketball the last couple of years because I just wasn't. College basketball had been a tougher watch. I just wasn't as interested. But now K-State being involved up at the top of the standings, and just like every game this year, so good. It's like every single time you flip on a Big 12 game, it's a great game with a great finish. I saw the stat. Fran Fraschilla, I think, said it was like 9 of 16 games that have been played so far were either overtime games or decided by 5 points or less. I mean, it was something crazy like that. So there's always drama, and they're very good basketball teams duking it out. So it is a ton of fun to watch right now. McMuffin, what's up, McMuffin? McMuffin, Baylor fan. McMuffin, thank you for the support, man. Really, really do appreciate it. McMuffin says, congrats to K-State for the absolute dagger to the heart y'all gave us in the Farrell Center. The year of the bear is already dead. We're a women's basketball school again until 2024. I love Coach Tang, but what a dagger. Well, first of all, McMuffin, I mean, all due respect to the women's basketball program, which is fabulous at Baylor, but you guys don't get too down on Aranda. I still love the guy. I would not get too down on Aranda in the football program. I certainly would not get too down on Scott Drew, who I also really love. And people who have listened to my radio show for years know that I have been a huge Scott Drew supporter going back like 10 years when people really hated on him all the time. So I like both of those coaches a lot. They're not going anywhere. Keontae George is a fabulous player, by the way. Had not watched much of him before Saturday. Love that guy's game. Flagler, also terrific. It was a dagger. And I mean, I hate to tell you, like Ish Massoud, the guy that hit that shot for K-State to put him up in overtime, had been, the most frustrating player, I think, for fans throughout the year this year. And for a while there had gotten benched and was not playing. And the injury to David Gasson kind of put him in the lineup. Basically, it was pretty unexpected for most of us that he had 13 points, including that dagger of a three that put K-State ahead. But I mean, that was a great basketball game between, I think, two very good teams. And I am forever indebted to you, McMuffin, for giving us Jerome Tang. He is wonderful, 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 wonderful. And I mean, unfortunately now he's having so much success conversation at some point is going to turn to, like, can K-State hang on to him and how long can they hang on to him? But yeah, look, it's going to happen sometimes, McMuffin. I would also just say, you guys won the national. You got a national championship, man. Fire up the national championship DVD. Put on the T-shirt. Like, if that happened to me, you just wouldn't be able to tell me anything for like decades. You got a national championship, not that far removed from the Sugar Bowl win and 12-win season. So, look, I think things are going to be just fine at Baylor there. But yes, much as I loved seeing it for K-State, I do feel for you, McMuffin, because it was a heartbreaking way to lose and a tough start to Baylor this basketball season so far. Okay, let's I see you know what? Cyclone Steve. Shout out to Cyclone Steve and the clones for a hell of a win too against TCU. That was an insane shot that kid hit, and felt to me like a ball don't lie moment after the foul that was called on the TCU kid. I don't think that was Mike Miles, was it? Maybe it was Miles. Kicked out his leg, basically did the flop that they're looking out for, kicked out his leg to draw the foul. That felt like a ball don't lie moment for sure. And Iowa State definitely deserved to win that game, and now they're unbeaten at the top of the Big 12 too. All right, we got to talk a little bit of TCU. All right, we got to talk a little bit of TCU here. National championship game tomorrow. A ton to gain for the Big 12. I don't think very much to lose. I mean, look, if TCU gets blasted, yes, we're going to deal with a lot of the SEC Twitter coming out and just, everything. This is light work. Big 12 sucks, all that. You're going to get some of that. But the league has already gained a tremendous amount of credibility by beating Michigan. When everybody thought Michigan was this, maybe not behemoth, but legitimate college football playoff team going back for a second straight year. And it was not some fluky looking win for TCU to get that done. The team that was picked 7th in the Big 12 did that. You've already earned a lot of your respect. And if TCU had gotten blown out against Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl, then there we're talking about credibility hits to the league. That didn't happen. Georgia is rolling. That is a crazy good program right now. If TCU gets beaten by 20 in the national championship game to Georgia, I just don't know that that's really going to affect much of the public opinion here very, very much now. So throw it out. You got nothing to lose. Everybody expects that to happen. TCU is the biggest underdog in national championship game history. Now, keep in mind, again, we've only been doing a national championship game for 25 years, but they are the biggest underdog in national championship game history. So there is absolutely nothing to lose, and I would certainly hope that TCU goes out and plays like that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that when you know that you're in that position. Makes it a little more fun, right? I mean, look, Georgia is a big favorite, but there's more pressure on them. That's got to be a little bit more pressure packed for them and fans of the SEC or whatever. Like, you are supposed to win. TCU can go out and play free and loose. And I think Sonny Dykes has a very good understanding of who exactly it is that they're playing for beyond just themselves and TCU. He must be listening to the YouTube live show. And Sonny, I'm sure look, when I saw this quote, I was like, oh, Sonny absolutely listens to the YouTube live show. So, Sonny, I know you're out there. Maybe you're watching this with the team. Maybe Duggan is with you. Maybe Kendre Miller is with you. Hope you're healthy, Kendre. Thank you for being a big fan of the YouTube live show here and John Kurt's YouTube channel and watching. Because how about this quote from Sonny Dykes? It seems like it came straight out of the last YouTube live show I did. It says, Sonny Dykes said he hopes TCU's run to the college football playoff title game, quote, gives hope to everybody in terms of access. Quote, I bet there are lots of people in places like Manhattan, Lubbock, Houston, Orlando, or Stillwater who are saying, if they can do it, we can do it. And I think they're right. That is so damn true. That is exactly what TCU is doing here, giving hope in a new era of college football that other programs can utilize the portal and whatever other resources and dynamics have changed here in this game to actually get to the summit of college football. Once again, I do think when the playoff expands and asking a team like a TCU to then win an extra game or an extra couple of games to win a national championship, depending on where playoff expansion winds up going, yes, that is a little bit more difficult. That is a little bit more difficult, and the more games, the more obstacles you put in front of somebody can make the cream rise to the top a little bit more. But also, I do think there is something to TCU utilizing the portal and being a good recruiting school, but not an elite or great recruiting school, is an actual replicatable formula for teams to make it to the point that TCU is at right now. And they've already, I think, given a lot of hope to not just the rest of the Big 12, but how about most of the Pac-12? How about most of the ACC? Like, outside of Clemson, The rest of the ACC, been a minute. I mean, Florida State, I suppose, could sit there and say, hey, we were in the national championship game in 2013. It hasn't been that long, only a decade. There are just a lot of Power 5 schools that will be looking at TCU like, all right, if they can do it, why not us? Why can't we? And I think that is very, very true. So I appreciate that Sonny Dykes recognizes that he has that sort of self-awareness, and that he understands the meaning of the moment as far as that is concerned, because I totally agree with him on that. Now, as far as how this actually happens, I mean, then that becomes much more difficult. I think one of the biggest factors in the actual game is that TCU will have to bust out some big chunk plays. As much as Ohio State moved the ball on Georgia, they did not have a ton of what would be classified as explosive plays. And same thing for TCU against Michigan. It was only 3 that hit that explosive play threshold in the game. I don't think, with all the talent that Georgia has, I don't think you're going to be able to nickel and dime your way to a win here. TCU was statistically the most explosive offense out of any of the 4 playoff teams going into the playoff. I think it's going to take a lot of that. They're going to have to play to that strength to actually win this game, because I don't see them consistently moving it. Think about the Chiefs. If you watch a lot of Chiefs football these days, everybody goes back into that shell and they kind of have to go nickel and dime all the time. Patrick Mahomes is not hitting the deep balls that he was in 2018 anymore. They have to do it a different way. The Chiefs can do that because they have Patrick Mahomes. And, even though it's not Tyreek Hill anymore, they got Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney, all these weapons. I mean, TCU has some good weapons, but they're not matching up with NFL talent across the board like Georgia is. So I think they will have to create explosive plays to win. Also, the tight ends for Georgia are just such a terrible matchup for anybody. I mean, Brock Bowers and then Darnell Washington. I mean, those guys are ridiculous. I think those will provide really difficult matchups that I worry about for TCU defensively. But and probably going to need to create turnovers like what happened against Michigan. I got some pushback from a Michigan fan recently. It was saying, the 2 pick sixes had to happen and the bad call for that. It probably takes another recipe like that. Honestly, it does to beat Georgia, because you are a big underdog. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen, because it did happen against Michigan. And so TCU will have to create some of that, I believe, to win. But is it possible? Hell yes. Hell yes. I'm going to say it's possible that TCU does win this game. I would not predict it, but if they can get Kendre Miller, which would help a ton, because that guy is a giant stud who got overshadowed throughout this year, I think mainly because of Bijan Robinson, who not only plays in the same conference, but is in the same state. Look, Kendre Miller, K-State players, I can remember saying from the first time that they played in Fort Worth, they were like, that guy is good. That was the guy that they were all talking about after the game. He is an excellent running back. And I have to agree. Stud playmaker, super playmaker. And 50% chance he could play is what Kendre Miller said as of Saturday. But coaches did more work during the week than expected, according to, I'm reading from The Athletic here, included activities like pool running and lifting. So if they can get anything out of him, I mean, all hands on deck. DeMercado looked great against Michigan, ran for $150 and a touchdown, but would really help to have the 1-2 punch there. They're going to need all hands on deck. I think it'll take a little bit of luck. I think it's going to take some explosive plays, both on offense and defense for TCU, because that's kind of how they do it. They're going to have to do it that way, whereas Georgia has enough that they could just nickel and dime throughout the whole game and kind of wear you down. It's going to take exciting explosiveness from TCU, but much love to Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs as they aim to try to go do that, because, again, they are trying to do this to set a precedent to the rest of the college football world that it does not just have to be the era of Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and LSU, and that's it. I mean, that's what it has felt like here lately in college football. This could be a sign of the times that it's really changing with the transfer portal, that is going to help even out some of the talent distribution throughout the game. I think we're already seeing, I think that is a fact already, but if it does it to the point where we have a national champion that was picked 7th in the Big 12 preseason, that's taking it to a new level. So go get it done, Sonny. Go get it done, TCU. We are all pulling for you here. I know that. All right, before we take off, we got, I guess we have a couple. We got a couple in here. A couple last donations here before I take off. And if you have anything left, you got about a minute or two, click the $sign below the chat box where it says say something to get your question or comment in here before I depart. Greg, what's up, Greg? Greg says, great content and keep it up. Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate your support and I appreciate you being here. Greg says, did Jerome Tang departure from Baylor take a step or two out of their playbook? Great game last night. He brings so much energy to Manhattan. What a great hire. Yeah, I think it's clear like he and Scott Drew were a great team, and he's doing a lot of things that I think are kind of from the Baylor playbook. One of them, interestingly enough, is actually utilizing red shirts. Like I was shocked that K-State redshirted Jarrell Colbert, who's an LSU transfer and just a wildly athletic big. I thought for sure they'd be using him, and I was as excited to watch him as anybody on the team this year. And they opted to redshirt him, and they have 3 that are redshirting right now, and that was something Baylor did. Like they kept guys around, and they have such a culture that you can do that. I think that's the other thing he's done. They are all about like just a family culture. He is having. We get to see a lot of it on social media, but they have the guys over to his house for dinners. They're doing a lot of group outings. It is just clear that it is a very tight-knit culture. He is all about that, totally serious about that. King McClure was doing the broadcast the other night, who played for him at Baylor, and he was still talking about being at Tang's house until 3 a.m. the other night when he was in Manhattan, just chatting away with him and he's had a relationship with him for like 14 years. Like, I think you have those types of relationships, you can get guys to stay around longer, even in this day and age of college basketball. Yeah, I think he's definitely brought a lot of the Baylor vibes to it, and it's been just wonderful. So, you're spot on. It's an incredible hire. Right now, it's looking like, I don't know, it might be the best hire that K-State has made. Chris Kleiman won the Big 12. It's hard. I was about to say since Bill Snyder, but there have been some good ones. There have been some good ones since then. Bob Huggins was an excellent hire that jump-started the basketball program, but it is, with immediate results, it is very hard to argue with basically anything that Tang has done so far. So, yeah, I just love it all because as I said, I love Scott Drew. I've been a big Scott Drew fan for a while, and to take kind of his understudy and number 2 guy and see the success that is occurring right now, I could not be more thrilled. Everybody is energized for sure. Daniel looks like he will close us out, and Daniel has the correct message to do so. Daniel, I appreciate your support. As always, my friend, Daniel says, go Frogs, make the Big 12 proud. Again, rocking the TCU purple. We'll get a little go Frogs here on the way out the door. Get it done. Excited to watch the national championship game tomorrow. Hope all of you guys are too. Obviously, we'll react to some of that in the midweek show, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys then. If you are not catching this live, you can support the channel on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. Hit me up on Twitter at JLKurtz. Try to be pretty responsive in the DMs if you have something for me. If you're a K-State fan, get to Bramlage on Tuesday, man. If you can at all, get to Bramlage on Tuesday. Fill that place up for the Oklahoma State game. And please, you guys, spread the word about the channel. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever social media outlets you have to spread the word about this channel. If you know Big 12 fans of your squad, please tell them about this channel. Let's continue to grow this community. And like the video. Like the video on your way out the door. Comment on the video after the fact. All that stuff helps me with the YouTube algorithm too, and is a way to support the channel without spending a dime. Dan coming in here at the end. Dan says, Repo Dan, making people cry here in Cincinnati for years. Just wanted to say I watch every video, usually while working. Don't get to say anything. Well, thank you, Dan. Very nice message. I'm glad that you did speak up this time. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. Much love to the Bearcats. Can't wait for you guys to get into the league here. And thank you for watching another YouTube Live here tonight. Fun show tonight, guys. Everybody who pitched in, really appreciate it. Everybody who's been here or who was here. Look, I'm getting tired of talking at this point. I need to just get the hell out of here. You guys know I love you. Thank you for the support, and I will talk to you all soon.